Welcome back to Keeping It Real. I hope that everybody's keeping it cool. We are in the South here. I'm in Georgia and it's super hot. Today's been okay, but we're ready for fall and football. So, I am Jessica Parker and I am a licensed therapist in private practice. And I started this YouTube channel so that I could hopefully help others who like to listen or watch videos or podcasts. And I'm trying to stick to themes that I see throughout my life and my private practice. And I hear clients talk about as well. So today, I've been giving this some thought all week, like, what do I want to talk about? And then it kind of hit me that everything that we do for the most part is relationally oriented, right? So even when my clients come in and they're in individual sessions, typically we're talking about relationships they have and how to navigate issues like work or illness or finances, children, school, whatever the case may, aging, retirement. And, it always seems to involve, for the most part, others. So I wanted to kind of talk about this today because one thing I was reading online, and I cannot remember a punchline. I don't remember quotes. I'm actually really horrible at it, so I tried to stay in my lane. But it really was in reference to having communication issues because we're not really getting to the point of something. We're kind of dancing around the subject, and so we're not coming out and just saying what we need from others, what we need for ourselves, because of lots of things, right? I mean, we're worried we're going to hurt somebody's feelings. We don't want to be the bad guy. This kind of goes back to another time when I was talking about narratives and what we want to tell ourselves about ourselves. And this goes way back, right? This runs pretty deep because this has to do with how we grew up, family dynamics, school, friends, all of it, right? And so we tell ourselves who we are in large part based on what others have told us in our lives. And so that can really complicate things, right? Because we're in a relationship and we kind of want to avoid conflict. Conflict is normal. It's good, right? Because a lot of times we get closer to each other, we learn about each other, we learn about ourselves. But how we handle ourselves in conflict and navigating wants and needs of two people or more in a relationship can be pretty tricky, because the question is like, if I have my needs met, does that include you? Does that mean you have to sacrifice something? What does this compromise look like? And so for that reason, I always encourage people to understand that the relationships that we're in are personal to us. There is no one size fits all. But we have to really think of ourselves and our partners and where do we go from there? How do we make this relationship work for us? Not based on what others think, but what we want, what we think together in this relationship. So I give an example. I used to teach domestic violence intervention classes for court mandate clients, and I really loved it. It might sound strange, but I really did enjoy it. And I work primarily with men. Classes were designed to keep men and women separate in this case, and so I worked with the men during that time. I have also worked with women, but not at this time. And I remember we were talking about communication and relationships and compromise and assigning responsibilities and roles in these relationships. And I had an older gentleman who said, he raised his hand and he said, so are you telling me that there's something wrong with me working and my wife cooking and cleaning and me paying the bills? And I said, Well, are you okay with it? He said, yeah. I said, is she okay with it? He said, yeah. I said, well, sounds great to me. It's really depends on the people in the relationship. It's not for me or anybody else really to tell someone how to work within their relationship. That said, I think communication is universal. And so, and a lot of us, I would say a lot of us, were not necessarily raised in families where conflict was first taught to be normal and acceptable. And therefore we weren't taught entirely how to handle conflict. Now, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to have wants and needs, even if it makes people around us unhappy. We can't please everybody by just letting go of all wants and needs of our own. But at the same time, we can't have all our wants and needs met disregarding our partner's feelings, their wants and needs. So that can get really complicated. But one thing I like to tell people, my clients, I do see couples, and so sometimes it could be individual or couples. For me, it's not much different actually. But anyways, so what I tell them is, first of all, get to the point of what you're trying to convey. I call them conflict themes. You will see them in your own life probably and in others. And the conflict themes can keep going and going and going throughout the relationship. And in large part, that has to do with personalities and differences in all of us. But sometimes it's because it just goes unresolved. Now, I don't mean we could fix every little problem. Sometimes it's good just to accept that you can't. We have to pick our battles, as they say. But what I do encourage is, really sitting with oneself and saying, what is it about this that bothers me? I recently had a couple come in, and there were complaints. One is a little more structured and organized, and the other one a little messy, or unorganized, and just maybe one's a little more on the creative side, and the other one likes to have things organized, and that's cool either way, both fine. But the more organized one was getting very, very frustrated with the mess growing and growing and growing. And the person who said, oh, I'm going to take care of that, I promise I will, I've just got to get things done. It's going to take time. And their partner was saying, you keep saying this, and I don't know what else I can say for you to understand, that this has got to get fixed. And then it hit me. Yes, part of it is about the mess and not wanting to live like that. The other part is the value assignment, what that mess meant. And in this particular situation, the mess, according to the partner, was that it was growing. I got this sense that this person, my client's partner, felt like they were being pushed out by mess, and therefore feeling invisible, feeling unimportant, not feeling valued. That would be the theme, the lack of value and importance and not being a priority to their partner. And that takes some effort. And of course, mess is mess. I mean, yes, it needs to be cleaned up. But my point is that sometimes we're so busy worrying about how our partners feel or how we look to others that we can't get to the part of ourselves that we can identify as a need. So I need my partner to care about me, to have my back, to value me enough that my partner keeps their word. And if they say they're going to clean up the mess, I need to see evidence of this. And that's simplifying it, right? Because we hold on to things in our lives that matter, and it gives us something. Everything we do, even these things that are maladjusted or people might deem dysfunctional or unhealthy, we're getting something, of course. And so I always have people look at it and say, well, what is that really lining up with that value, the thing that you think you want or you think you're getting? Is that really the means in which you want to get it, right? I've had people tell me, oh, I know I shouldn't buy all this junk, but it just makes me feel good. And then later on they'll tell me, somebody that loved them, that's how they would show affection. And yeah, it can feel like we still have that connection to this person that's no longer with us or in our lives. But there are more, probably I would say, less dysfunctional ways or ways of doing things for ourselves and relying on others to also do those things for us that maybe are better than holding on to something that is causing someone who's with me today to feel bad. And again, this is kind of simplifying things a bit, but the communication, going back to that. So I tell people, I think it's really important that we focus on what we really want and need. And now the next step is communicating this. I encourage people, and this may be, again, simplifying it, but to use what we call like reflective listening, conscious communication, which is I tell my partner what I want and how I'm feeling, and my partner literally reflects it back. And now the next step would be my partner saying, and so this is how it makes you feel. Did I get it right? And you can say no and explain it again. But typically we get defensive, right? We say, well, that's not my fault, or it's not all me, or, but something else. And even if we believe that, getting defensive really shuts it down, because really what we want is to be heard and understood. Not agreeing, it's not giving in and being the chump. I've heard people say, I don't want to be the chump. But what it does do is say to my partner, I care, I hear you, and I think I know how you're feeling. It's a good place to start, and I encourage people to use it in situations that are low risk sometimes for a while and just get the hang of it, because it feels a little weird at first. I certainly wasn't good at it at first, I'll be honest. And so I did this with my daughter when she was much younger. And I think to this day, she kind of does this naturally with me, which is kind of cool. But yeah, relationships. I think that I might actually continue on with a few sessions, if you will, and work on relationships, communication, and things like this. Well, thanks for joining, and I hope you have a good, cool weekend. See you next week.